For this video, I'll do some exercises about product rule and quotient rule. I will skip some explanation because I have explained this in previous videos, but I will clarify some things along the way. So let's start with the first example. F of x equals e to the x over 2x to the third power. We have a quotient rule here, so we know that f prime of x is going to be derivative of numerator times denominator minus numerator times derivative of denominator 2x to the third power, and then all of this divided by 2x to the third power squared. So now derivative of e to the x, we have two derivatives to apply here. Derivative of e to the x is just e to the x times 2x to the third power minus e to the x times derivative of 2x to the third power. It's going to be 6x squared, power rule over there, and we have over, and then we have 2 squared is 4 times x to the third power squared is going to be x to the 6th power. So we have 4x to the 6th power. Now we can do the following. We have a common factor of e to the x over here. We take out that e to the x and we have 2x to the third minus 6x squared over 4x to the 6th. Now we can leave this as an answer here. This is technically an answer, but if you want full marks, you should try and simplify as much as possible. So I'm going to simplify as much as possible. We have an e to the x over here. I'm going to take it out just for simplicity, and I'm going to split the fraction here. So we have e to the x times 2x to the third power over 4x to the 6th minus 6x squared over 4x to the 6th. I just split it the fractions. Now we can simplify over here. This is 1/2, and we have x to the 3 and x to the 6. We have, they subtract, so we have a 3 over here, and then here we have 6 over 2, that's 3, and we have 4 over 2, that's 2, and then we have x squared over x to the 6th power. We remain with a 4 in the denominator. So we have, at the end, we have e to the x, and then we have 1/2, and on the bottom we have x to the third power minus 3 over 2x to the 4, 2x to the 4th power. Now we can still simplify this a little bit more. If you can see in the denominators, we have 2x to the third and we have 2x to the 4th. What we can do here is we can multiply an x on the top and on the bottom to make the denominators equal. So we're going to have e to the x, x minus 3, and then all of this over 2x to the third, to the 4th, I'm sorry. So this over here is the answer in its simplest form. E to the x times x minus 3 over 2x to the 4th power. So let's do another example. Now we're going to have this other example. So the function says f of x equals square root of x over x minus 1. So we can do something here. We can rewrite this to make things clear. We have x to the 1/2 over x minus 1. So again, we have a quotient rule, so we're going to apply the process of the quotient rule. We have f prime of x is going to be derivative of numerator 1/2 times denominator minus numerator times derivative of denominator, and then all of this over denominator squared, which is x minus 1 squared. So by the power rule, we already know that the derivative of x to the 1/2 is going to be always, it's going to be 1 over 2 square root of x, right, times x minus 1 minus x to the 1/2 times derivative of x minus 1 is just going to be 1. Then we have again all of this divided by x minus 1 squared. So I can already see that we have to split the fraction to make things easier right now, and we're going to do this right now. So we have here, this is going to multiply right here, so we have x minus 1 over 2 square root of x over this over here, x minus 1 squared, minus, and then we have x squared over x to the 1, we have x to the 1/2 over the denominator, the same denominator, since I'm just splitting the fraction. So now here we have a fraction over fraction, so we already know what to do with that. We keep the first one as it is, and then we flip the one on the bottom, so we have 1 over x minus 1 squared, and then we have the same thing over here. We have x to the 1/2 over x minus 1 squared. So now I have on the denominator and numerator I have x minus 1, so I can get rid of one of them. So I'm going to continue this over here. So since I got rid of one of them, I'm going to have 1 over 2 square root of x minus then I have times 1 over x minus 1, because I still have 1, then minus x to the 1/2 over x minus 1 squared. So that's what I have left. So now we can multiply this, and we're gonna have this denominator 2x squared x minus 1 minus x to the 1/2 x minus 1 squared. So now let's see, we have two fractions. So let's review a little bit of algebra. When we have a over b, 1 over a minus 1 over b, we don't have the same denominator, so what we do, if we do this, b minus a and then ab, we combine the fraction. So we're gonna do something similar here. I have x minus 1 here, and I have to make the denominator to be equal. So what am I missing? I'm missing a 2 square root of x and another x minus 1, right? So I'm going to have I'm going to do the same thing, cross multiplication. So I'm going to have on the numerator, I'm going to have x minus 1 minus square root of x times 2 square root of x, right? Because I just send the 2 square root of x over there, and I send 1 x minus 1 over there, so I have them here. And this square root of x is the same x to the 1/2. I just wrote it in radical form. So now we have combined the fraction, and now what do we have on the denominator? We have 2 square root of x, and then we have x minus 1 squared. I just did an algebraic process over here. There's not much. And now we have square root of x times square root of x. That's just going to be x, because we have square root of x squared. That's just x. So this fraction simplifies to x minus 1 minus 2x over 2 square root of x minus 1 squared. Now we can combine like terms over here. We have x minus 2x. So we're going to have x minus 2x. It's going to be minus x, and then we have the minus 1 over here. So we have minus x minus 1 over the same denominator, 2 square root of x minus 1 squared. And now at this point we have the answer. This is the answer, but to have it in the simplest form, I'm going to take out that negative sign to make it more, to simplify it and have full marks. So I'm going to have minus, and then I'm going to have x plus 1 over 2 square root of x minus 1 squared. So this is the simplest answer possible to this exercise. So now, what did I do in this exercise? I started with the functions, and I rewrote it. I took their derivatives, and I got to this point, right? So since I had a fraction over fraction, I split the fractions to make my work easier and visualize it better, what I had to do. So I split them, and then I rewrote them, simplified a little bit, and then what I did in this next page is I did algebraic fractions like this, and then I combined the fractions to simplify it, and then I gave a final answer over here, which is minus x plus 1 over 2 square root of x minus 1. And if you're wondering if I could cancel this with this, no, you can't, because you have x plus 1, and then here you have x minus 1. You couldn't do it over here either, because you had minus x minus 1. So this is the simplest form it gets.